6 months of marriage. 890,000 subscribers. 47 women saved from hell. Adora Nakamura thought she'd finally found her happy ending. Until she saw the black van outside her foundation office. Until the pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines. Until Minji burst into their penthouse at 3 a.m. with blood streaming down her face, gasping. They took the files. All 47 case files. They know everything. But what Minji didn't know was that case file number 23, a girl named Yuki, rescued from a smuggling operation 8 months ago, was the daughter of Kazuo Matsumoto, a Yakuza lieutenant who'd been tearing apart Koreatown searching for his lost merchandise. And Kazuo had just learned exactly who was responsible for hiding her. The phone rang. Unknown number. Takeda answered on speaker, and Adora heard breathing. Then a voice cold as winter, Mrs. Nakamura. You took my daughter. My property. 48 hours to return her, or I start returning your other women. Piece by piece. A pause that felt like death itself. And when I'm done with them, I come for you. Adaora's hand moved to her stomach, to the secret growing there, and she realized, this time, she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. And there you have it. The stakes just got deadly. Part 2, where survival isn't enough anymore. Now Adaora's fighting for 47 lives, her unborn child, and a future that keeps trying to kill her. If you're obsessed with women who transform from survivors into warriors, protective antiheroes willing to burn the world down, and love stories where pregnancy meets warfare, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button because we've got more dangerous romance coming your way. Syndicate wars, impossible choices, mothers who refuse to be victims even with targets on their backs. All the high-stakes emotional warfare you crave. Smash that like button and drop a comment telling me, what's your current situation right now, and where in the world are you listening from? Are you at work secretly binge-watching, lying in bed when you should be sleeping, or maybe escaping reality on your commute? Where are my story lovers tuning in from today? I love knowing where you all are. The Mandarin Oriental Ballroom glittered with 500 of Manhattan's most influential people, all gathered for one purpose, to celebrate Adora Nakamura and her Rising Free initiative. 6 months of marriage had changed everything. Her YouTube channel had exploded to 890,000 subscribers. Her foundation had rescued 47 women from situations like the one she'd escaped. And tonight, Senator Patricia Morrison was calling her a beacon of hope for survivors everywhere. Adora smiled from the stage in her emerald gown, one hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even Takeda. The pregnancy test that morning had shown 2 pink lines, and she'd been waiting for the perfect moment. From his position near the bar, Takeda watched his wife with barely concealed pride. But his trained eyes kept scanning the crowd, catching details others missed. The man in the dark suit near the kitchen entrance, who'd been watching Adora for 20 minutes straight. The woman with the communications earpiece who wasn't part of their security team. The server whose hands showed calluses inconsistent with restaurant work. Minji appeared at his elbow. Sir, we have 3 unknowns. I've run facial recognition. Nothing in any database. Ghost protocols, Takeda murmured. Professionals who know how to stay invisible. His jaw tightened. Double the perimeter. I want eyes on Adora every second. The gala continued without incident. Adora gave her speech about breaking cycles of abuse, about giving survivors resources and dignity. The crowd stood and applauded. Donations poured in, over $2 million by the evening's end. Later, in their penthouse, Adora finally told him about the baby. Takeda pulled her close, his usual control cracking into genuine joy. We're having a child. We're having a child. She laughed, then sobered. I saw you watching the crowd tonight. You were worried. Just cautious, he lied smoothly. Old habits. What he didn't tell her, the man in the dark suit had disappeared before security could identify him. But he'd left something behind. A single photograph on a table near the exit. It was Adaora's Foundation intake photo of case file number 23. A girl named Yuki Matsumoto. And written on the back in precise Japanese characters. You took what's mine. Now I take what's yours. The call came at 3:47 a.m. Adora jerked awake to find Takedo, already dressed, phone pressed to his ear. His expression carved from stone. How many injured? Lock down the building. Nobody in or out. I'm on my way. What happened? She asked, throwing off the covers. The Foundation office. Break in. He was moving toward the door, then stopped. Stay here. Minji will. I'm coming with you. Her voice left no room for argument. They arrived to find controlled chaos. Police cars, ambulances, Takedo's security team forming a perimeter. Minji sat on the curb, paramedic wrapping her head wound. Her expression murderous despite the blood streaming down her face. I'm sorry, sir, she said as they approached. They were already inside when I arrived for the morning security check. 4 of them, maybe 5, military trained, moved like special forces. I got one shot off before. She gestured at her head. They took the files. All 47 case files from the secure room. Adaora's blood turned to ice. Those files contained everything. Real names, safe house locations, testimony details, photographs. Every woman they'd helped, exposed. The safe required 3 access codes. Minji continued. They opened it in under 90 seconds. This wasn't random theft, sir. They knew exactly what they wanted. Inside, Takedo's tech team was already pulling security footage. Adora watched the playback with growing horror. 5 figures in tactical gear, faces covered, moving with precision choreography. In and out in 4 minutes. The safe opened like they had the combination memorized. We have a leak, Takedo said quietly. Someone gave them access codes and floor plans. One of his analysts looked up from her laptop. Sir, I've cross-referenced the stolen files. There's one that's problematic. Case file 23. Yuki Matsumoto. She pulled up the file. A young woman, barely 19, with scared eyes and bruises she tried to hide with makeup. Adora remembered the intake interview vividly. Yuki had been trafficked by her own father's organization, a smuggling operation running between Seoul and New York. Matsumoto, Takedo repeated, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Kazuo Matsumoto. The analyst nodded. Yakuza lieutenant. He's been tearing apart Koreatown for 8 months looking for his daughter. Rumor is he's lost significant face because she escaped. If he finds out we helped her disappear. He already knows, Minji said, standing despite the paramedics' protests. Why else steal all 47 files? He wants us to know he can reach any of them. He's making a point. Adaora's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Heavy breathing. Then a man's voice, cold and precise with a thick Japanese accent. Mrs. Nakamura. You have something that belongs to me. My daughter. My property. You have 48 hours to return her, or I start returning your other 46 women. Piece by piece. And when I'm done with them. A pause. I come for you. The line went dead. Takedo pulled Adora against him, but she could feel the rage vibrating through his body. This wasn't just a threat against his wife. This was a declaration of war. Bernard Thompson walked into Nakamura Technologies at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and every security guard in the building reached for their weapon. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said, hands raised, stopping at the metal detector. I need to speak with Adora. It's about the threat against her. Minji appeared within 30 seconds. Gun drawn, expression murderous. You have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't put a bullet in you right now. Because someone paid for my early release, Bernard said quickly. I was supposed to serve 18 months. I got out in 9. My lawyer said it was good behavior and overcrowding. But that's bullshit. Someone with serious money and connections arranged it. Minji's eyes narrowed. Why? They wanted information about Adora, about her routines, her foundation work, the women she helps hide. Bernard's jaw clenched. I told them to go to hell. But they already knew everything anyway. They just wanted to see if I'd cooperate. 20 minutes later, Bernard sat in a conference room across from Takedo and Adora. The tension was suffocating. Adora hadn't seen her ex-boyfriend since the night he'd been arrested in this very building, and every instinct screamed at her to run. But Bernard looked different, thinner, older. The arrogance that once defined him had been replaced with something that looked almost like shame. Who arranged your release? Takedo asked, his voice deadly calm. I don't know his name. My lawyer just said, a benefactor interested in rehabilitation. Bernard pulled out his phone, showing them a photograph. But I took this outside the prison the day I was released. This man was watching me, following me. Takedo studied the image, then forwarded it to his security team. Within 90 seconds, they had a match. Baek Sun-ho, Minji reported. Director of the Baek Syndicate, Korean organized crime, operates out of Seoul and New York. He's been trying to move into your territory for 2 years, sir. Why would a Korean crime boss care about my foundation work? Adora asked. Because you're Takedo's weakness, Bernard said quietly, meeting her eyes for the first time. I know because I used to think you were mine. That I owned you. That controlling you gave me power. He looked at Takedo. He's going to use her against you. And I might be a piece of shit, but I'm not going to let that happen. Takedo's expression was unreadable. Why should I trust you? Because I owe her a debt I can never repay. And because... Bernard's voice cracked slightly. Because maybe this is the one thing I can do that doesn't make me a complete monster. The room fell silent. Finally, Adora spoke. What do you know about their plans? Bernard leaned forward. Everything. The explosion happened at 7:43 a.m., just as the morning shift arrived at Nakamura Technologies. Adora was in the penthouse, reviewing foundation case files with her legal team, when the windows rattled from the blast 6 blocks away. Her phone lit up instantly, Takedo calling. Are you safe? His voice was strained, background noise of sirens and shouting. I'm fine. What happened? Car bomb in our executive parking garage. 3 employees injured, 1 critical. Get to the bunker. Now, the bunker was what Takedo called the underground facility he'd built beneath a property in Westchester. A mansion that looked ordinary above ground but contained a military-grade safe house below. Reinforced walls, independent power and water, enough supplies for 6 months, and security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. Adora hated it on sight. This is a prison, she said, staring at the windowless living quarters. This is safety, Takedo countered. He looked exhausted, his suit jacket torn, soot on his face from the blast site. Adora, they spray-painted a message at the scene. Your empire burns. Your wife burns. Choose. So your solution is to lock me in a cage. Her voice rose. I've been here before, Takedo. Living in fear. Hiding, letting someone else control my movements, because it's for my protection. I won't do it again. This is different. Is it? She stepped closer, anger and fear warring in her chest. Bernard controlled me because he said he loved me. You're controlling me because you say you're protecting me. But I'm still trapped. I'm still powerless. I'm still living my life according to someone else's rules. Takedo's jaw clenched. 3 people are in the hospital because someone wants to hurt me through you. What would you have me do? Let you walk around Manhattan like there's no threat? I'd have you treat me like a partner instead of a possession. The words exploded out of her. I'm carrying your child, Takedo. Our child. Do you think I want to put our baby at risk? But I also won't raise this child in a world where I teach them that hiding is the same as living. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Takedo spoke, his voice low. What do you want? I want to fight back. I want training, real training. Self-defense, weapons, tactical awareness, everything your security team knows. I want to be able to protect myself instead of always needing protection. She met his eyes. And I want to keep doing my foundation work. Because if I stop, if I hide, then they've already won. Minji, who'd been standing guard by the door, cleared her throat. Sir, if I may, she's right. A target that can fight back is harder to hit than one that just runs. Takedo looked between the 2 women, then closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Adora saw resignation and respect in equal measure. You train with Minji. Every day. 6 hours minimum. And you don't go anywhere without a security detail. Agreed. And if the threat level escalates, then we reassess. Together. As partners. Adora reached for his hand. I'm not trying to be reckless. I'm trying to survive on my terms instead of theirs. Takedo pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. I can't lose you. I can't lose another person I love to violence I should have prevented. Then help me become someone who can't be taken. She pulled back to look at him. Your sister Hannah didn't have that choice. But I do. Don't take that away from me. The next morning, Adaora's training began. 3 weeks of brutal training had transformed Adaora's body into something she barely recognized. Minji was merciless, 6 hours daily of Krav Maga, weapons handling, tactical awareness, escape protocols. Her muscles ached constantly, but she'd never felt more powerful. Again, Minji barked as Adora executed a disarm technique for the 20th time. Faster. If someone grabs you, you have 2 seconds before backup arrives. Make them count. But training wasn't enough. Adora refused to let Baek Sunho's threats shut down her foundation work. Instead, she did something that made Takedo's security team nearly mutiny. She went public. The YouTube video posted at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. Adora sat in her home studio, no makeup hiding the exhaustion in her eyes, and spoke directly to her 890,000 subscribers. My name is Adora Nakamura, and someone is trying to silence me. 3 weeks ago, a bomb went off at my husband's company. My foundation office was broken into, files stolen. Women I promised to protect are now in danger because I helped them escape abuse and trafficking. She leaned forward, her voice steady. But I will not be silenced. I will not hide, because the moment we let fear dictate our actions, they've already won. The Rising Free initiative will continue. We will not abandon the women who need us. And to whoever is threatening me, I'm right here. Come find me. The video exploded. 2.4 million views in 24 hours. Major news networks picked it up. Politicians issued statements of support. The hashtag #StandWithAdaora trended globally. Takedo watched the view count climb from his office, torn between pride and terror. She's painted an even bigger target on herself. She's made herself too visible to disappear quietly, Minji countered. Smart move, actually. Baek can't snatch her off the street now, without massive public attention. Bernard, who'd somehow become a fixture in their war room, nodded. She's using the one weapon they can't counter, transparency. Everything happens in public now. They can't move without witnesses. But that night, an encrypted message arrived on Adeora's foundation email. Asterisk, publicity won't save you, Mrs. Nakamura. We can take you in front of 1,000 cameras, and no one will stop us. You've made this personal. Now, watch what happens when we make it painful. Asterisk, attached was a photograph. Yuki Matsumoto, the girl from case file number 23, grocery shopping in what was supposed to be a secure safe house in Queens. They knew exactly where she was. Adeora's hand trembled as she showed Takedo the message. They're going to kill her. To prove they can. To show that my protection means nothing. Then we move her. Tonight. Moving her is what they expect. They'll be watching every safe house, every exit route. Adeora's mind raced, training and instinct combining. What if we don't hide her? What if we do the opposite? Takedo's eyes narrowed. Explain. The Metropolitan Museum Gala is next week. $5,000 tickets, 800 guests, maximum security for the art collection. The kind of event where nothing violent could possibly happen. She met his gaze. We bring Yuki as my guest. We surround her with cameras, press, witnesses. We make her so visible that taking her becomes impossible. Or we give them exactly what they want, both of you in one location, Minji said. Then we turn it into a trap, Takedo said slowly, understanding dawning. We make them think they have an opportunity. But the real security is invisible. My entire network embedded as staff, guests, security personnel. Bernard leaned forward. You're using Adeora as bait. I'm using myself as bait, Adeora corrected. There's a difference. This time, I choose the battlefield. The Metropolitan Museum of Art glittered like a jewel box under strategically placed lighting. 800 guests informal were circulated through the Egyptian wing, champagne flowing, a string quartet playing softly near the Temple of Dender. Adeora stood near the reflecting pool in a midnight blue gown, Yuki beside her in borrowed designer, where that probably cost more than the girl's entire previous life. Cameras flashed as society reporters documented the evening's attendees. I don't understand why we're here, Yuki whispered, her eyes darting nervously. You said we'd be safe if we stayed hidden. Safe isn't the same as free, Adeora replied, echoing the words she'd lived by for months. Sometimes you have to stand in the light to keep the shadows from swallowing you. What Yuki didn't know, 37 of the museum's staff were Takedo's security team. The guests at 3 separate tables were FBI agents coordinating with local police. The photographer, who'd been circling them for 20 minutes, was Minji in a press credential. Takedo himself stood across the room, devastating in a custom tuxedo, playing the role of wealthy philanthropist while his eyes constantly tracked Adeora's position. Every exit memorized. Every threat vector calculated. Every contingency planned. Bernard was outside in a surveillance van with the technical team monitoring security feeds from 40 different cameras throughout the museum and surrounding streets. His redemption arc had turned him into an unlikely ally, someone who understood threat assessment because he'd once been the threat. Black sedan just pulled up to the service entrance. Bernard's voice crackled through Takedo's hidden earpiece. 3 occupants. Doesn't match our approved vendor list. Copy that. Sector 4. Converge on service entrance. Intercept, but don't engage unless threatened. The evening continued smoothly. Speeches about art preservation and cultural heritage. Auction items raising money for museum programs. Adeora gave a brief talk about the connection between cultural preservation and protecting vulnerable populations, words carefully chosen to send a message to anyone watching. Then, at 9:47 p.m., the lights went out. The museum plunged into darkness. Guests gasped, some screamed. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds, Too long, Adora thought with sudden clarity. Someone had disabled the backup generators. Stay close to me, she told Yuki, her hand moving to the small panic button hidden in her evening clutch. Then gunshots. Sharp cracks echoing through the stone halls. More screaming. People running, pushing, chaos spreading like wildfire. Adora felt Yuki torn from her side, heard the girl's scream cut short. She spun, saw figures in black tactical gear moving through the crowd with military precision. Not toward her, toward the service corridors. They were leaving. They have Yuki. Minji's voice shouted through the confusion. But as security converged on the museum, as Takedo fought through panicked guests to reach his wife, as Bernard pulled up security footage, they all realized the same terrible thing. The museum attack was misdirection. Sir, one of the tech analysts said, voice shaking. We just got an alert from the Queen's safe house. The Foundation office. They're hitting both locations simultaneously. Adaora's blood turned to ice. How many women were at the Foundation tonight? 12, Minji answered. 12 women in protective custody, working late on intake paperwork. The phone in Adaora's clutch buzzed. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Kazuo Matsumoto's voice, cold and triumphant. Thank you for the lovely evening, Mrs. Nakamura. While you played dress-up at your museum party, we collected what belongs to us. My daughter. And 13 of your little rescue projects. Consider this a lesson in the cost of interference. The line went dead. Takedo pulled Adora against him as the full scope of the disaster crashed over them. The bait had worked. They'd just been baiting the wrong trap. And now 13 women, including Yuki Matsumoto, were gone. The Foundation office was a war zone. Adora stood in the doorway, bile rising in her throat. Overturned furniture, blood spatter on the walls, spent shell casings glinting under fluorescent lights. The secure room, where women waited for safe house placements, had been breached, door torn off its hinges by what looked like explosives. 12 women, Minji reported, her voice hollow. Plus Yuki makes 13. They took them all. Hit the office at 9:45 p.m., same time as the museum attack. Gone in 6 minutes. Takedo's jaw was clenched so tight Adora could see the muscle twitching. Witnesses. 2 security guards, both alive but unconscious. Neighbors reported hearing what they thought were fireworks. By the time police arrived, the attackers were gone. Minji pulled up footage on her tablet. 9 vehicles. Professional extraction. They knew exactly where everyone was positioned. Adora watched the security video, each second burning into her memory. Women being dragged out, zip-tied, thrown into vans. One tried to fight back, knocked unconscious with brutal efficiency. Yuki's terrified face before a hood was pulled over her head. This is my fault, Adora whispered. I brought Yuki to the museum. I made us both targets. I thought I was being smart, but You couldn't have known they'd split their forces, Bernard interrupted, appearing in the doorway. His expression was grim. This was planned for weeks. The museum was always meant to be a diversion. They needed you distracted while they hit the real target. Adaora's phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She answered on speaker, her hand shaking. Mrs. Nakamura. Kazuo Matsumoto's voice dripped with satisfaction. I trust you've seen our handiwork. 13 women. All because you couldn't mind your own business. Let them go, Adora said, forcing her voice steady. Your daughter, the others, they're innocent. Your fight is with me. My fight is with anyone who steals my property. But you're right about one thing. This does involve you personally now. A pause. I want my daughter returned. Alive, unharmed, with a full apology. And I want $50 million in compensation for the business you disrupted. You have 72 hours. And if we refuse? Takedo cut in. Then I start sending pieces of these women back to you. Starting with the pregnant one. Such a tragedy. She was only 4 months along. The line went dead. Adora felt the room tilt. Pregnant. One of them is pregnant. Minji scrolled through the intake files. Maria Gonzalez. Case file 38. 4 months pregnant. Fled domestic violence situation in the Bronx. She was waiting for a spot in our prenatal care program. Adora's hand moved unconsciously to her own stomach, to the 8-week secret growing there. She imagined Maria, terrified, alone, carrying life while surrounded by men who dealt in death. We have to get them back, she said. We will. Takedo's voice was ice. Bernard, I need everything you know about Beck Sunho's operation. Every property, every known associate, every place they might hold hostages. Minji, activate all our resources. Every informant, every contact in law enforcement, every surveillance asset we have. I want these women found within 48 hours. Sir, Minji hesitated. Matsumoto said 72 hours. If we move too quickly. I don't negotiate with kidnappers. Takedo said flatly. We find them, we extract them. And then Matsumoto learns what happens when you target my family. But as the team mobilized, Adora stood frozen, staring at Maria Gonzalez's intake photo. A young woman with hopeful eyes, one hand resting protectively on her barely visible baby bump, smiling because she thought she'd finally found safety. Adora had promised her protection, had promised all of them they'd be safe. And she'd failed them all. Adora woke in darkness to the sound of crying. Her head throbbed where someone had struck her, she remembered now. Leaving the museum, heading back to the penthouse, the van that had appeared out of nowhere. The impact, arms grabbing her, a cloth pressed to her face, the sickly sweet smell of chloroform. They hadn't taken her at the foundation office. They'd waited, taken her after. Hello, she called out, her voice hoarse. Adora. A young voice, terrified. Is that you? Her eyes adjusted to the dim emergency lighting. She was in a shipping container. The corrugated metal walls unmistakable, the musty smell of ocean salt. 12 other women huddled in corners and against walls, most of them crying, all of them terrified. And there, in the corner, was Yuki Matsumoto. I'm so sorry, Yuki sobbed. This is all my fault. My father. Your father is a monster. Adora cut in, forcing herself to sit up despite the dizziness. None of this is your fault. You're a victim, just like the rest of us. Mrs. Nakamura. Another voice. Maria Gonzalez, the pregnant woman, sat nearby, both hands protectively cradling her stomach. Are they going to kill us? Adora's mind raced. Think. Stay calm. You've trained for this. Minji's voice in her head. Asterisk, assess your environment. Identify resources. Plan your escape. Asterisk. No, Adora said firmly, with more confidence than she felt. My husband will find us. But until he does, we need to stay smart. Stay strong. She looked around at the 13 faces watching her. How long have we been here? 8 hours. Maybe, one woman answered. They moved us twice. Vans, then a truck, then they put us in here. Do any of you know where we are? Head shakes all around. Adora studied the container. Heavy door, locked from outside. Air vents along the top, too small to crawl through, but large enough for ventilation. The guards had brought food twice, Yuki reported. Changed shifts every 4 hours. I heard them talking, another woman whispered. Something about an exchange. 48 hours. They're waiting for something. An exchange. Which meant Matsumoto expected Takedo to negotiate. Expected him to bring something, money probably, or evidence that could destroy him. The Yakuza lieutenant wanted both revenge and profit. Adora felt the familiar weight of her wedding ring on her finger. Takeda had insisted on custom design, platinum band, single diamond. She thought it was just his taste for luxury. But now, pressing her thumb against the stone, she felt the almost imperceptible vibration. GPS tracker. He'd embedded it in the ring. He was already tracking her. The question was whether he'd find them before the 72-hour deadline. "Listen to me," Adora said, gathering the women closer. "I need to tell you all something. I'm 8 weeks pregnant." Gasps around the circle. Maria's eyes widened. "I'm telling you because I need you to understand. I'm not giving up. I'm not letting them win. And I'm not leaving any of you behind." She met each woman's eyes in turn. "My husband taught me something these past few months. Being a victim is something that happens to you. Being a survivor is a choice you make. So right now, we're going to choose to survive. Together." "How?" Yuki asked, her voice small. Adora looked up at the air vents, at the door hinges, at the way the guards stood when they brought food. Minji's training sessions flashing through her mind. "We're going to plan. We're going to prepare. And when the opportunity comes," she smiled grimly, "we're going to fight our way out of here." Takeda stood in his command center, the penthouse converted into a war room, staring at the digital map showing a pulsing red dot in the port of Newark. Adora's ring. The GPS tracker was still transmitting. "She's alive," Minji confirmed, zooming in on the satellite imagery. "Shipping container yard, Section K7. Industrial area, minimal civilian traffic. Perfect place to hold hostages." "How many hostiles?" Takeda asked, his voice dangerously calm. The tone his associates knew meant someone was about to die. "Thermal imaging shows 12 signatures outside the container, rotating shifts. Another 15 in surrounding buildings. Maybe more we can't detect." Minji pulled up additional screens. "Matsumoto is there personally. So is Baek Sun-ho. This is a joint operation." Bernard leaned over the console, studying the layout. "It's a trap. They know you'll come for her. They're counting on it. You walk in there, they have leverage over both of you. I don't care if it's a trap." Takedo's hands clenched. "I'm getting my wife back." "Sir," one of his analysts interrupted. "We have another problem. Your cousin Jean just withdrew $5 million from the company's discretionary fund. And he's been in communication with Baek Sun-ho for 3 months." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Jean. Family. The cousin he'd mentored, promoted, trusted. "Bring him in," Takeda ordered. 30 minutes later, Jean Nakamura sat in the conference room, defiant despite being surrounded by armed security. He was younger than Takeda by 8 years, always second in line, always waiting for his chance. "You sold out our family," Takeda said quietly. "For what? Money? Power?" "For respect." Jean spat. "You went soft, cousin. You married an outsider. Some YouTuber who makes videos about makeup and feelings. You built a criminal empire, and then threw it away for what? Love." He laughed bitterly. "Our grandfather would be ashamed. Our grandfather built this empire to protect our community, to ensure our people had power when the law wouldn't protect them." Takeda leaned forward. "You perverted that into something else. You chose greed over loyalty. I chose strength over weakness. Baek offered me what you never would, real leadership. A chance to build something that matters instead of playing bodyguard to your wife's charity project. You gave them our security protocols, our safe house locations. You told them exactly when and where to strike." Takeda's voice dropped to something lethal. 13 women are being held hostage because of you. One of them is pregnant. Another is 19 years old, trafficked by her own father. And my wife, his control cracked for just a moment. My pregnant wife is in a shipping container in Newark because you wanted a promotion. Jin's face paled. Pregnant? Adora is, for the first time. Doubt flickered in his eyes. 8 weeks. She hasn't announced it yet. Takedo stood. You're going to help us fix this. Why would I help you? Because if anything happens to Adora or our child, there is nowhere in this world you can hide from me. No prison, no protection, no amount of money will keep you safe. Takedo's expression was carved from stone. But if you help us rescue those women, if you give us every piece of intelligence you have on Beck's operation, I'll let you live. You'll never work in this industry again. You'll never see our family again, but you'll live. Gene stared at his cousin, seeing the absolute certainty in his eyes. Finally, he nodded. Beck is moving them tomorrow at dawn, taking them to a cargo ship bound for Seoul. Once they're international waters, you'll never find them. The exchange was a lie. He never intended to return them. He's going to sell them. All of them. The room went silent. Trafficking. Minji breathed. He's turning this into a business opportunity. The ship leaves at 6 a.m., Gene continued. But there's a shift change at 4 a.m. Smaller security detail for 90 minutes while day crew rotates in. That's your window. Takedo was already moving, pulling up schematics, coordinating teams. We go in at 0400. 3 units, extraction, suppression, and emergency medical. FBI is monitoring but won't intervene until we confirm hostage location. You're going in personally? Bernard asked. She's my wife. My child. My responsibility. Takedo looked around the room. I need volunteers. This is going to be violent. People will likely die. No one is obligated. I'm in, Minji said immediately. I'm in, Bernard added, surprising everyone. One by one, Takedo's entire security team volunteered. 37 people willing to risk their lives for 13 women they'd never met and 1 woman who'd become the heart of their organization. Gene gives us building layouts, security rotations, everything he knows. Takedo ordered. We have 8 hours to plan a rescue operation against superior numbers in hostile territory. Questions? Just one, Minji said. When we get her back, what do we do about Matsumoto and Beck? Takedo's smile was cold enough to freeze blood. We make sure they understand what happens when you threaten the Nakamura family. Permanently. The port of Newark at 3:47 a.m. was a maze of containers, cranes, and shadows. Adora had been awake for hours, whispering her plan to the other women. They'd practiced in the darkness, how to move, how to stay silent, how to fight if necessary. Maria was the weakest, pregnancy making her slower, but the other women had rallied around her. When the door opens for food delivery, Adora whispered, we rush them. All of us at once. They won't expect it. They have guns, one woman whimpered. And we have desperation. Surprise. And 13 bodies that can overwhelm 2 guards. Adora squeezed the woman's hand. We're not victims anymore. We're survivors. And survivors fight. At 3:58 a.m., footsteps approached. Adora positioned herself by the door. Several women behind her. This was it. The door swung open. 2 guards with food trays. Now, 13 women exploded forward. The first guard went down under the sheer weight of bodies. The second raised his gun, but Adora was already moving, Minji's training taking over. She struck his wrist, grabbed the weapon, and pistol-whipped him across the temple. He dropped. Take their radios, zip ties, anything useful, Adora ordered. We need to move. Gunfire erupted outside. Not from the guards. From somewhere else. Down. Adora screamed, pushing women back into the container. But through the chaos, she heard a voice that made her heart soar. Adora. Takedo. The assault was precision chaos. Takedo's team hit 3 entry points simultaneously. Minji leading the suppression unit, Bernard coordinating from a mobile command vehicle, Takeda himself fighting through the main approach. He moved through the container yard like death incarnate. Every guard who raised a weapon went down. Every obstacle was overcome. Minji covered his six, her accuracy surgical. The FBI held perimeter positions, ready to sweep in once hostages were secured. But Matsumoto and Beck had anticipated an assault. Fall back, Minji shouted as a second wave of reinforcements appeared. We're outnumbered. Then Bernard's voice crackled through comms. Air support inbound. FBI just authorized tactical response. ETA 90 seconds. Takeda reached the container and found Adora standing in the doorway, unconscious guard at her feet, holding a gun with the confidence of someone who knew how to use it. Their eyes met across 20 feet of chaos. You came, she said. Did you doubt it? Never. He closed the distance, pulled her against him for 3 precious seconds. Are you hurt? No, but we need to move 13 women, and one of them is pregnant, and... I know. Medical unit is standing by. He turned to the huddled women. Stay close to me. We're getting you out. The firefight intensified. Takedo's team formed a protective corridor, moving the women through in groups of 3. Maria stumbled, and Bernard appeared out of nowhere, scooping her up and carrying her despite the bullet wound in his shoulder. I got you, he told her. You're safe now. Then Adora saw him. Kazuo Matsumoto, emerging from behind a container, gun raised, pointing directly at Yuki. She's mine, he roared. My property. Time slowed. Adora raised her stolen weapon, but Matsumoto was already firing. The bullet meant, for Yuki found a different target. Bernard. He'd stepped in front of Maria, protecting the pregnant woman with his body. The impact spun him around, blood blooming across his chest. He dropped, and Matsumoto lined up another shot. But Takeda was faster. 3 shots. Center mass. Matsumoto went down and didn't get up. Adora ran to Bernard. He was gasping, blood bubbling at his lips. Did I get her out? She's safe. Maria's safe. You saved her. Tears streamed down Adora's face. Why did you do that? Because... Bernard coughed, crimson staining his teeth. Because she deserves the ending I couldn't give you. Because maybe this makes me less of a monster. You're not dying, Adora insisted, pressing her hands against the wound. Medic. I need a medic. But Bernard's eyes were already glazing. Tell Takeda, protect her better than I did. Tell him she's worth the world. His breathing stopped. Around them, the firefight was ending. Beck Sun-ho escaped in the confusion, disappearing into the maze of containers. Jean had been shot by his own allies, dead before he hit the ground. Matsumoto's body lay 20 feet away, justice delivered in lead. Takeda gathered Adora in his arms as FBI and paramedics swarmed the scene. All 13 women alive. His wife alive. His unborn child alive. But the cost had been written in blood. He saved us, Adora whispered against his chest. Bernard. He died saving us. I know. Takeda held her tighter. Redemption is never cheap. Before you go, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I want to shout out every single person who made it to the end of this story. Jamaica, South Africa, USA, UK, Korea, Japan, Canada, Ghana, Kenya, Trinidad. Wherever you are, did this story hit home? The impossible choices, the family secrets, the love that saves you and destroys you at the same time, the realization that your mother's sacrifices came with a price you're still paying. Comment your country, plus, this is my story too. If any part of Adora's journey felt like your own. Because I need to know I'm not writing into the void. I need to know these stories matter beyond borders. And if it hit different, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Let's build a community of people who understand that survival is complicated,